Jess Arce is known as America's dyslexia expert. She's the CEO of 3D Learning Experts, helping struggling students with learning challenges, helping them to succeed in school and life. She's the best-selling author of I Am Not Dumb, I Am Dyslexic, and the host of the Learning Disability Experts podcast. Jess is a self-diagnosed dyslexic who is married to a profound dyslexic. Being a mom to 4 now adult children with 9 neurodiversities led her on a journey to help her children. And over 10 years later, she has dedicated her life to helping others in the neurodiverse communities. Jess received her certification as a Barton tutor and a dyslexia screener in 2015, and now trains her staff to help students with dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia. I know I said it wrong. I'm sorry, Jess. She helps them all throughout the United States. I'm so happy to have her. Welcome, Jess. Hi, Jess.
Hi, Deedra. I'm so excited to be here today.
I'm super excited to have you here after this long day of everything that's going on. I'm so excited that you're here because you have some really great things to share and some really great things that even I want to hear about that I don't know about. So I'd love for you to start and tell us all how you got to where you are right now with what you're doing. How did dysgraphia come into your life?
So dysgraphia entered my life because my second youngest child has profound dysgraphia, and we never got any help in school. And when will
you tell people what it means when you say profound dysgraphia rather than just dysgraphia?
Okay, so it is a handicap for him. It controls his decisions he has made academically and his decisions he has made as moving into adulthood. It's crippling.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you for people who wondered what profound dysgraphia is. All
Absolutely.
Right, so like many stories I've heard, you've had a child with dysgraphia and
so I started helping my other son who has profound dyslexia, and I started from there. I started my tutoring business, and then I just discovered that dysgraphia was a whole nother world that needs, for the most part, very different help and accommodations for. And so my journey to be where I am today started because of my children. And I guess, that's pretty much how I got started. I don't know if I should go deeper into any details right off the bat, because then we may not get time for me to share anything else.
We won't have time for anything else. Well, hey, it seems to be a common story. You know, when we see our children struggling, then we get started and we get moving to where we think we need to be in order to help our kids. So that's it. So right now, tell me what you do right now to help kids with dysgraphia.
So my company, 3D Learning Experts, we, the third D is dysgraphia. And so we provide writing instruction to kids with dysgraphia and also kids with dyslexia, because they overlap quite a bit. And so our writing program that we use is systematic. It builds on itself, which is the key for people with any of the Ds. Because in school, they kind of just throw everything out there like a smorgasbord. And then they expect the kids to grab all of the information. And our kids just can't do that. So we need to teach them systematically. So our writing program, we start by teaching them note-taking skills. And from there, we teach them one writing skill after another. And each week, they build their repertoire of information that they have to help them become better writers.
So tell me, if you have a kid who's really struggling or has profound dysgraphia, and you get them kind of at the beginning, in the younger years, what are some of the things they're really struggling with? That's what I want a lot of educators or caregivers to know. What are some of the things that are common that a child with dysgraphia is really struggling with, so that they can watch for those kinds of things?
So, resistance to writing, a discrepancy in their verbal abilities versus their written abilities, being apprehensive, not wanting to sit down and do any writing, and saying, I can't do it. And a lot of times teachers or parents are like, yes, you can. You just need to focus. Well, no, they don't just need to focus. They can't just focus. They literally, it's crippling to them. And so that's one of the biggest things, I think, is people need to realize that the block is real. It's not laziness. It's not something they're just trying to avoid.
Preach it. Preach it. I know there's a lot of parents right now that are saying yes, yes, yes. I always say that this whole thing has been a journey, because there was a time as a mother that I made mistakes where I was like, just try again, or we need to go over that again. I mean, you can do it, and that was before I knew that he had dysgraphia and what dysgraphia was. And so I understand when educators or parents or people can make mistakes, because I made mistakes too, until I was able to learn better. And that's why, to me, dysgraphia awareness is so important, because we need people to know, so that that's not the response. It's not laziness. It's not just defiance. It might be some defiance because they know it's hurting, but that it's not attributed to laziness. So thank you for saying that. And what happens, I mean, you're working with students, but what happens to a child when they keep being told that they're lazy and they're not working hard enough and they don't get help? What are some of the things that can happen?
Well, I think one of the worst things that can happen is they start to believe that. Mm-hmm. And so then they just don't feel like they're capable of doing anything, or they don't see any value in themselves. So that's the worst thing that can happen. Because if there's not someone who is supporting them, they just give up. Mm-hmm. And prisons are filled with people who have learning challenges because they gave up on themselves and they didn't have an advocate, a support system in place. So that's the big thing. For my son with his dysgraphia, he didn't qualify for an IEP because when they did the IEP testing, he just had to write a paragraph. Well, he was like 14 years old. I mean, he was fully capable of writing a paragraph. But that's not what they expect of students who are 14 years old. They expect them to be writing 3-page papers. That he couldn't do by himself. So, that's one of the big challenges with the IEPs is it's not really an accurate result of what their abilities are.
Right. There's so much more that goes into the diagnosis than just, can you write a sentence? And, I think something, and maybe you can confirm, I'm not the expert. I'm a mom. And this is what has been our experience, is that there are days that my 7th grader, who's been diagnosed now for like 6 to 7 years, he'll write, a beautiful sentence. And if you just saw that when a teacher, and we've had this experience that I've talked about before, but a teacher can see that and be like, there's not a problem. And then when it manifests and shows itself later, the two don't seem to connect. And
sorry.
No, you go ahead.
One of the jokes in the industry is when your kid has those really good days, don't send them to school.
I haven't heard that, but I totally get it. I totally get it. And it's not that we want our kids to do bad, but there is that fear for a lot of moms, is that when they have a good day, there's kind of this assumption that either
why can't they perform like that every day?
Yeah,
assumption.
They can, and they're choosing not to, or they're done. They're cured. We're all done. They took the 3 classes and now they're fine. And with it being a neurological brain disorder that dysgraphia is, there's not a checklist of boxes that you can take these classes and then you're fine. It is a consistent challenge that needs to be addressed. Okay, so I want to ask you, what have you found to be some of the most successful things that you've done that help with dysgraphia? But before we do that, I do want to explain that your 3D learning, the 3Ds, you said that dysgraphia is the second of the D, is that correct? No, the third.
It's the third.
The third. And what are the other two?
So the first one is dyslexia. That is our flagship service. And then the second one is dyscalculia, which is for difficulty with math. And then the third one is for dysgraphia.
Okay, good. I want to make sure that everyone knows. So when you are working with students, the ones that have dysgraphia, what are some of the things that you have seen made a difference? And of course, every child is different, and what works for one child won't work for another, and what works really great for one, it won't work as well for someone else. But what are some of the things that happen that you go, okay, this is what really has been helpful in the process?
I would say repetition is probably the number one thing that helps, and patience. And we focus on building their confidence. That is typically what I tell parents. They'll see an improvement in their child's confidence before they see academic improvements, because we're working really hard to build their confidence so that they feel like they can do things. But yeah, I mean, the rest of it just kind of falls into place because of those 3 things.
Yeah, I think that people like to dissect writing difficulty from a child's heart and their intellect. But we've been talking a lot, with everyone about that there really is a connection between dysgraphia and some of the heart hurts that it causes for kids. And we see that a lot. So that's fantastic. I love that that's what you do.
And if I can just share one little thing, my husband is over 50, and he has dysgraphia. And when he was in his 20s, he was making $250,000 a year, but he wasn't writing. He was verbally communicating with people. So putting less pressure on them to write everything and handwrite everything, it can help a lot as well, because some people with dysgraphia do great with dictating. For my son, that did not work for him at all. He's 22 now, so when he was still in school, the dictation options weren't as good as they are today. But there's still the same issues can happen, and what it is he would say what he wanted to say, and then it would write it down incorrectly. And it would be so frustrating for him to have to go back and remember what he was saying and have to fix what he wanted to say. So At 22, I can't get him to use any dictation things because of his poor experiences when he was younger. And so when he was homeschooling, because I started homeschooling him in 6th grade, he dictated every single paper to me, and I was his scribe. And I told him if he wanted to go to college, I would be happy to be his scribe through college. He decided to go into a trade, and he's actually teaching welding today because he can communicate his thoughts very well. But I think one of the problems is there's so much pressure that everyone needs to be doing the exact same thing, and our brains are different, and we're all each unique individuals. So it's important that we all have a foundation of understanding. However, I feel after that, like the expectations should not be the same for each and every person.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with that. You said so many little things there that I want to touch on. One, the success of your husband. I know a lot of us as moms have worried about is my child with dysgraphia going to be able to get a job and make money and, to support his family and himself, or the things that he wants to do and the places he wants to give. And just every time I have an example of someone who has a job and has a good job and is getting paid when they are dealing with dysgraphia. And then along with your son, we've talked before, and I've just been so impressed with your son and his ability to go into the welding world and teaching that he's teaching himself to know that there is hope, that there is, the ability to be successful and do things that you love. I love that you shared those. And I love that you're sharing that if it works for one, it might not work for the other. And that's true. All these people that we've talked to today about dysgraphia awareness that I've been talking with and talking with you, we've got to try, and don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. If this doesn't work, you got to keep trying, because it might not be the thing that works for you yet. And so I love your heart, and I love, it's been so exciting to talk to people who have such a heart for this and for the person, and not just for a test and not for just passing, but a real heart for our children and their hearts. So I love hearing you talk about that. Thank you. If you had a group of educators in front of you and you only had a very short amount of time to share something with them about dysgraphia, what would you share with them?
I think it's really important for educators to understand, and we already kind of touched on this, but to understand that dysgraphia is real. It's not made up. And like you said, they may be able to write well at certain periods of time, especially if it's just a small piece of writing. However, that doesn't mean that they can write what is expected for their grade level, and they need to be given some grace and accommodations. Oh my goodness, accommodations do not need to be extra work for teachers, and they can change the world for their students.
Amen and amen. Yeah, that's great words. And one of the reasons why we got started with dysgraphia awareness is just, it's so weird. Don't you think? Isn't it so weird to have to say it's real? It's real. It's real. I mean, I never knew that was going to be part of my journey, is just trying to explain to people what my son has is real. And so I love when you are in the trenches, fighting for our kids and making sure that they get what they need. So I love everything about you, your energy, what you're doing, your family, how they're succeeding. And I just thank you so much for being a part of today and joining me for this interview. And thank you for all that you do. We appreciate it so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me here today.
Of course. Bye, Jess.
Bye.